Now, Persia was a very patriarchal society. It is men who ran the government, it's men who went to war, it's men who engaged in serious economic activities. The women stayed at home, took care of the kids, had kids, took care of the family, basically the home. So it was unusual for a woman to become an advisor of the king. It was even very odd for a woman to go to war. But it happened that there is this one woman, she wasn't Persian though, that ended up becoming a top general in Xerxes' army, a very respected general or commander. I might get the ranks wrong, but she was high up there. She became a very reliable and trusted advisor to the king. And not only that, she was a very efficient soldier. Um, in the final days of the Xerxes expedition in Europe, she almost became the only person that Xerxes would trust to give him good advice. And that's because most of what the other people were telling, in particular Mardonius, who had persuaded him to go to war in Europe, that advice didn't work out well for him, and so he realized over time that whatever this lady was telling him turned out to be the better advice. And it is this lady who performed so well in the last battle that Xerxes witnessed or oversaw between the Persians and the Greeks, that he said these words, my men have behaved like women and my women are like men. And he was referring to this woman. And it is this woman that the Greeks, in particular the Athenians, felt so insulted that a woman will fight them. They felt insulted by the mere fact that there was a woman in Xerxes' army who was leading men to fight them. And because of that, they went ahead and, in fact, put up a reward of 10,000 drachmas for anyone who will capture this woman and bring her as a hostage to the Greeks. And at the end, this woman became the person that Xerxes charged with the responsibility of protecting and transporting his sons who were part of the army. When Xerxes realized that the war was not going on their side, that they were about to lose, he charged her with the responsibility of taking care of the sons who were in the army and transporting them out of Europe. That's how reliable this woman had become. Her name was Artemisia, and she was a queen of a small city-state known as Halicarnassia. And how she became king is that, or queen, how she ended up being the queen of this city-state is that her husband was a king and then he passed on. And their kids were too young their son, the first son, was too young to become the king. And so she decided to take up that responsibility. And when Xerxes came, she formed an alliance with him and she joined his army and she became one of the top commanders, you might call her so. And yeah, so that's Artemisia. And the reason why Xerxes over time came to trust her advice is because whenever she called, you can call it a war council, and they will have conversations about strategy. She will give, initially he will basically ignore her advice because she's a woman, so he will listen to these other guys. But whatever advice she will give, in the end, it will turn out that should have been what they should have done. A good example is when the Persians were planning to go to the Battle of Salamis, which was like the last battle they fought before Xerxes realized that things were not okay and he had to run away. This lady Artemisia had told Xerxes it's not a good idea to engage the Greeks in the sea war. Like, he told him the Greeks are better than us with this. And remember, I've mentioned this in another video. This lady had the second best fleet after the Phoenicians. So she knew what she was talking about. And she told Xerxes, it's not a good idea for us to engage these people. I think it's better we engage them in the land battles. so that we first deal with them there before we move to the, because if we move to the sea fight, they are going to beat us, and that's going to be problematic. Why? Because then they will control the sea, and that means we'll have problems transporting supplies and transporting people, and they might even rush to the what they used to call as the Hellespont, which was the bridge between Europe and Asia, and dismantle that bridge, and then we are stuck here. We will be unable to move out. But he ignored our advice, and he took the advice of the likes of Mardonius, and they went and fought, and they lost. And now they face the real threat of the Greeks becoming the lords of the sea, and that meant now they will be at their mercies. Despite their huge numbers of the land armies, they will be unable to transport supplies, and the Greeks might just rush to the Hellespont and dismantle the bridge, and then Xerxes will be stuck in Europe. So after that, he now trusted her very much, more than anybody else. In fact, when Mardonius realized that the war was not going well for them, he came to Xerxes, and he knew he was in trouble with Xerxes, because it is him who had pushed a lot for Xerxes to come to Europe. And he was trying to think of a way to get himself out of this trouble. And he decided to propose or suggest to Xerxes that, let me stay here in Europe with a small army and see what I can do. Basically, I decided I better die in Europe than go to Asia and have my head cut off by the king. So, and then the king called in Artemisia and asked her, what do you think about this suggestion? And she was like, if Mardonius decides to stay in Europe, I don't see any problem with it. Just give him the men he's asking you. And if he succeeds, it's you succeeded. He's your slave. If he loses, you not have lost much. You just lost a slave, and you're still okay in Asia. It wouldn't be a big deal. So basically, Artemisia, and then there's something else that happened during the last battle. While there was dysfunction in the Persian fleet, things were going terribly wrong. She stood out and she fought very well with her own ship. And at some point, she was trying to escape. And this other guy, a Persian, was on the way with his own ship. And she had no other way out. And she decided to sink that ship. And Xerxes was seeing that because he was stationed on some hill nearby. And the people who were around him told him, you see, Artemisia fights well, and she has sunk a ship. And everybody pretended that ship was a ship of the enemy. And he asked, are you sure that Artemisia did that? At this time, he had a soft spot for her. Like, are you guys sure she sank one of our own ships? And they were like, yeah, we are sure, because we know how our ship looks. And that's when he said, you know, my men have behaved like women, and my women are behaving like men. Yeah, so that's Artemisia, the woman who overcame the societal view of what a woman should be, and became the most trusted and reliable general and advisor to Xerxes.